So this video will show you how to fix the pedals on your bike. Well, there are pretty much 3 different things that can go wrong with the pedals on your bike, and this bike actually has problems with all 3 of them, so I can show you. This pedal here has the most basic problem, which is cracked pedal. So this was just caused from the pedal running into a curb or something, and this piece of it here coming out. And it really is a problem because when you're riding along with the pedal like this, it's really annoying because your foot only makes contact with this much of the pedal, so it's not as comfortable on your foot as it should be. So that's one problem. So the second type of problem you can have with the pedal is that it's not free to rotate. With the pedal you should be able to flick to one side and it should just spin for, I don't know, a few seconds at least, but this one just doesn't move at all. And what's causing that is just that all the bearings in here are just so gummed up with salt and sand and stuff, because I ride this bike in the winter, that it doesn't want to rotate. And the third type of problem you can have with a pedal is basically the opposite of the second one, which is that instead of the bearings being too tight and the pedal not wanting to rotate, it's that the bearings are too loose and there's a lot of play in them. So you can hear it this one as I pull it back and forth. It's wobbling all over the place, making all sorts of noise. And it's not a problem with the noise, but the problem is that there's going to be a lot of wear in there because everything's able to move so far that just going to get damaged really quickly. So that's the third type of problem. The first step for solving all 3 types of problems is to remove the pedals from the bike, which can be done by putting a wrench on this part of the pedal axle here. But it is very, very, very important to note that the left and right pedals have opposite threads. So the pedal on the right hand side uses the right hand rule. So we want the pedal thread to go this way, to come out, so your thumb points in the direction that you want to go, using your right hand of course, and then your fingers rotate in the direction that you need to thread it. So to remove the pedal, you have to put the wrench around here and rotate counterclockwise, the same as any other thread you're used to. But when you're standing over here on the left hand side of the bike, touching the left pedal of the bike, the pedal is left threaded, which means you do the same thing with your left hand. So your thumb points in the direction you want the thread to go, so you're threading the pedal off, and your fingers rotate in the direction that you turn it. So you're actually turning it clockwise, which, if you're used to dealing with threads, seems like you're actually tightening it, but on this special case, you're removing it. Anyone that's ever done this job before knows that taking your pedal off correctly is very important, because especially on this left hand side, you'll have your wrench in here like this and you'll be pushing down and pushing down and pushing down, and it just won't come out because of course you're tightening it instead of loosening it. The bike companies actually make a special tool that's designed just for taking out pedals, called a pedal wrench. And if you're new to this job a lot, I strongly recommend getting one. I don't actually have one, but I have this adjustable wrench which will work in most situations. You know, if the pedal's really seized on there, I'm not going to use this because it's just going to wreck my adjustable wrench, but in most cases this will do the trick. So you want to start by getting the pedal that you're going to take off so that it's at the bottom of its stroke, like this one is here. And then you put the wrench on, and obviously you just try and use your hand to push it first. So remembering the technique I told you for pushing it off, you just start rotating, and that one was easy to take off. Sometimes they're a lot harder. You'll need to stand on it with your foot. This one was nice and easy. After you got it started, you can finish it with your hand. And there's that one off. Now we're going to do the one on the left side, which you use the same technique except rotate in the opposite direction. So I put a wrench on here, and we push down with the pedal at the bottom of its stroke. And this one's a lot tighter than the last one, so we're going to have to use that technique which I told you about, which is to stand on it. So you move the bike out a little bit, put your finger on the brake, And I put one foot on this pedal and the other foot on the wrench. This. And there we go. After you get it started, it's easy to finish rotating. Now that we've got the pedals off the bike, we're going to actually get down to the business of fixing them. The easiest way to fix a pedal, obviously, is just to replace it. Although you can't just buy one pedal when you go to the store, you always have to buy them in pairs, or every time I bought them. So if you have one bad pedal, you have to end up replacing both of them, which seems kind of wasteful to me. In a lot of cases, a bad pedal is completely fixable. Like if it's just gummed up, or the bearing's loose, it's very easy to just take it apart and clean it all out, put it all back together, and it's practically as good as new. Of course, in the case of a cracked pedal, you are going to end up needing to find a new one, because there's no way of me fixing that, obviously. If you do end up going to the store and buying new ones, you have to keep in mind that there's actually two different thread sizes for pedals. This style is the smaller size, which is used for mostly for one-piece cranks, like the bike that this came off of, but there's actually this bigger size that I have in my other hand, which is just slightly bigger diameter, but it's a completely different size and they won't fit on each other. So in this case, I've actually got a perfectly good, or as far as I can tell, perfectly good left pedal that I just have from an old bike that I have lying in my box of parts, and it rotates nicely and there's no play in the bearing, so that left pedal is perfectly good. So I'm going to use that to replace the left pedal on my bike, but I don't actually have anything that's the same as this for the right hand side of my bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my old left pedal that has the gummed up bearings, and I'm going to put that on the right side of my bike. But the thing is, these threads for the left hand side are not going to go in to the right hand side of the bike because they're opposite. If you try, you're just going to strip both the pedal and the bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pedal apart, clean it all up inside, then I'm going to take this pedal apart and use the axle from it, this part here, I'm going to put it inside of my old left pedal, and then I'm going to have two perfectly good pedals, and both of them were originally left pedals. So I'm going to take this pedal with the cracked frame apart first, because I don't really care about it, and if I do something wrong, it doesn't really matter very much. So all I'm saving here is the axle for the pedal. So first you got to take off this plastic piece here. You can just do that with a small screwdriver, flathead. That comes off like that. All this little plastic cap is it keeps the dust and dirt and everything out from the bearings in here of your pedal. So now you can see that there's a nut on the end of this axle here. So then you get your socket set together and you find a socket that'll fit on that nut. In this case, on this pedal, it was a 12mm socket. So it fits on there good. Then you get your ratchet handle on that socket, and also your adjustable wrench. And then you rotate in the opposite directions so that you can get that nut off. Just like that. Again, after you get it started, it's very easy to take off. There it is out. Then after that nut, there's a small washer, which I'm taking off with these pliers. It looks like that. And then inside there, there's another thing that looks like a nut, which is actually the cone which holds the pedal on. And it's not very tight because the nut is what locks it on. So you can rotate that off just by using a screwdriver. And there it is off. Now here's where you got to be very careful, because inside there are, I think, 11 ball bearings, and then again down right here there are another set of ball bearings. So you got to be careful which way you turn it, because they're all going to come flying out. Try and find something you can use to catch the ball bearings. I'm going to use this tuna can. Just going to use my screwdriver to take out both layers of ball bearings. We're going to keep them in here in case we lose any from the other, because we are combining 2 pedals into one, so we do have twice as much hardware as we need. Here we go. So now I've just got to repeat the same process of disassembling my non-cracked left pedal, which is going to be taken apart and cleaned out since it was gummed up inside there. And then we're going to rebuild it with this axle inside it instead.